Your credit card just got declined at the grocery store. You're standing there with a cart full of the basics, nothing fancy, just chicken, rice, some vegetables, maybe a box of cereal for the kids. The cashier is staring at you. The people behind you are pretending not to notice, and your face is burning. You mumble something about the wrong card and pull out another one. This one goes through. You walk to your car feeling like a failure. But here's the thing. You're not failing. You're average. And in America right now, average is effectively broke. My name is Nick, and today we're going to do something that financial advisors hate. We're going to calculate the actual cost of living a completely normal average American life in 2026. Not a lavish life, not even a comfortable life, just the baseline existence that society tells you is standard. And when we're done with the math, you're going to understand why 2/3 of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency. Spoiler alert, it's not because they're buying too many lattes. Let's start with what average actually means. The median household income in the United States is sitting around $84,000. That sounds decent, right? That's supposed to be middle class. That's supposed to be the American dream. But let me show you what happens to that 84,000 the second it enters your life. First, the government takes their cut. Between federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, and maybe a modest retirement contribution because you're told you have to save for the future, you're losing about 22% right off the top. That 84,000 is now 65,500. Your actual take-home pay is roughly $5,460 per month. That's what you have to work with. Now let's see if you can survive on it. Housing. The general rule, the one every financial expert parrots, is that you shouldn't spend more than 30% of your gross income on housing. On 84,000, that's $2,100 a month. In dozens of American cities right now, $2,100 doesn't get you a house. It gets you a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a mediocre neighborhood with paper-thin walls and a landlord who takes 3 weeks to fix the heater. But let's be generous. Let's say you found something for exactly $2,100. You're left with $3,360. Transportation. Unless you live in New York, San Francisco, or Chicago, you need a car. The average car payment in America is over $700 a month. Then there's insurance, which averages about $200. Gas, depending on your commute, another $250. Maintenance, oil changes, tire rotations, the occasional repair. Budget, another $150. That's $1,300 a month just to own the machine that gets you to the job that pays for the machine. You're down to $2,060. Food. The USDA says a family of 4 needs about $1,000 a month for a moderate food budget. That's not eating out. That's not organic kale and grass-fed beef. That's just feeding your family without them going hungry. A single person might spend $400. A couple, $600. Let's split the difference and say $700. We're at $1,360 remaining. Utilities and essentials. Electricity, water, trash, internet, because you literally can't function in modern society without it, and cell phones. That's easily $350 a month if you're being frugal. We're at $1,010. Health insurance. If your employer covers some of it, you're still paying premiums out of pocket. Average cost for an individual is around $450 a month. For a family, over $1,000. Let's say you're single and your employer helps. You're still paying $200 down to $810. Student loans. The average monthly payment is around $350. And before you say, not everyone has student loans, you're right. But the people who do have them are drowning. Let's include it because it's devastatingly common. $460 left. We haven't touched clothing. We haven't touched emergency savings. We haven't touched retirement. Beyond that initial tiny contribution, we haven't touched entertainment, hobbies, or the psychological need to occasionally feel human. We haven't touched dental work, car registration, haircuts, or the 100 small expenses that pop up every single month. And we definitely haven't touched kids, Childcare alone can cost more than rent in some states. You're sitting on $460 of buffer. One bad month, one unexpected expense, one medical bill, and you're in debt. This is the math of being average. You're not living, you're barely surviving. And the system is designed to convince you that this is your fault. Here's what nobody tells you. Being average costs more than it used to. Not because average people are more wasteful, but because the baseline price of normal life has skyrocketed while wages have stayed flat. Housing costs have increased 400% since 1990. Wages have gone up maybe 180%. College tuition has gone up over 500%. Healthcare costs have tripled. The math doesn't work. It cannot work. It will not work. And yet, every institution in America is built on the assumption that it does work. Banks will approve you for loans you can't afford. Universities will let you sign up for debt you'll never escape. Car dealerships will stretch your payment plan to 8 years so the monthly number looks manageable. Everyone is incentivized to keep you spending, keep you borrowing, keep you trapped in the cycle, because the second you stop participating, the entire economy starts to crack. So what does this mean for you? It means that if you're struggling, if you feel like you're working harder than your parents did, but getting less, if you're one surprise away from financial disaster, you're not broken. You're experiencing the mathematical reality of modern America. The cost of average has become unaffordable, and what's truly insidious is that the system has convinced you to keep chasing it anyway. Because here's the trap most people fall into. They see the struggle of average, and they think the solution is to become above average. They think, if I just make more money, if I just get the promotion, if I just hustle harder, then I'll finally be comfortable. This is the second trap, and it's even more devastating than the first. Because making more money doesn't solve the problem. It just gives you access to a more expensive version of the same trap. You go from struggling at $40,000 to struggling at $80,000 to struggling at $120,000. The stress doesn't disappear. It just gets better lighting and granite countertops. Let me show you exactly how this works with a real example. Meet the Parkers, combined household income $130,000 a year. By every cultural metric, they've made it. They're in the top 25% of earners. They should be living comfortably. Let's watch what actually happens to their money. Monthly gross income, $10,833. Sounds impressive until the IRS shows up. Federal income tax at their bracket, roughly $1,900. State tax, another $600. FICA takes $830. They're contributing 6% to their 401k to get the employer match because that's what responsible people do. That's $650. Take-home pay after taxes and minimal retirement savings, $7,053. Now the expenses start. They bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a decent school district because they have 2 kids. Mortgage payment on their $400,000 loan at 6.5% interest, $2,530. Property taxes, $500. Homeowners insurance, that's gone up 30% in 2 years, $350. HOA fee, because of course there's an HOA, $150. Total housing cost, $3,530. Remaining, $3,523. 2 car payments because they both commute to jobs in opposite directions. Nothing fancy, just reliable Hondas, $700 total. Car insurance for 2 vehicles with decent coverage, $300. Gas because suburban sprawl means driving everywhere, $400. We're at $2,123. Groceries for a family of 4 trying to feed growing kids something that isn't pure sodium and food dye, $900 if they're careful. Health insurance premiums after employer contribution, $500. The deductible they're slowly paying off from when their son broke his arm, $150 monthly. Childcare and after-school programs because both parents work full-time, $800. Student loans from the degrees they needed to get the jobs that qualified them for this lifestyle, $600. We're at $173 remaining. Utilities, internet, phones, $250. They're already negative $77, and we haven't touched clothing, school supplies, birthday presents, car maintenance, dental work, or the fact that humans occasionally need haircuts. The Parkers make $130,000 a year. They should be crushing it. Instead, they're living paycheck to paycheck, putting unexpected expenses on credit cards and lying awake wondering why they feel so stressed when they're supposedly successful. This is what above average looks like in 2026. You're not escaping the trap by earning more. You're just paying more rent to stay in it. The cultural narrative tells you that if you work hard and make good money, you'll achieve financial security. But security isn't determined by your income. It's determined by the gap between your income and the cost of the life you're expected to live at that income level. Society has assigned a price tag to every income bracket. If you make $40,000, you're expected to live in a cheap apartment and drive a beater. If you make $80,000, you're expected to own a starter home and have reliable cars. If you make $130,000, you're expected to live in a good school district, take family vacations, and look successful. These aren't just suggestions, they're social requirements. Your kids' friends all have trampolines and gaming systems. Your coworkers all drive newer cars. Your neighbors all renovate their kitchens. The pressure to keep pace isn't coming from some evil corporation. It's coming from everyone around you living the exact same lie. And here's the truly insane part. The people selling you this lifestyle, the banks, the car dealerships, the real estate agents, they know the math doesn't work. They know you can't actually afford it. They just don't care because their commission doesn't depend on your long-term financial health. The mortgage broker who approved the Parkers for that $400,000 house ran the numbers, 41% debt to income ratio, technically within guidelines. Does it matter that one job loss or major car repair would destroy them? Not to the broker. The loan gets sold to an investor within weeks anyway. The car salesman who stretched their payment to 72 months so they could afford 2 vehicles, he's not thinking about how they'll still be making payments when those cars need major repairs. He's thinking about his monthly quota. Every single person in the transaction is optimizing for the sale, not for your survival. And once you're locked in, once you've signed the mortgage and the car loans and enrolled the kids in the expensive school district, you're trapped. You can't downsize without uprooting your entire life. You can't take a pay cut to pursue something meaningful because the payments don't stop. You definitely can't quit your job to figure out what you actually want because you've built a financial prison that requires constant feeding. This is the real cost of average. It's not just the money, it's the complete loss of freedom. You're working to pay for a life you barely have time to live because you're always working. The system isn't broken. This is exactly how it's designed to function. Keep people earning just enough to stay hopeful, but not enough to ever get ahead. Keep them borrowing to maintain the appearance of success. Keep them too exhausted and financially fragile to take risks or demand better. And the most brilliant part of the design, it's convinced you that this is normal, that everyone struggles like this, that financial stress is just part of being an adult. So you don't question it. You don't rebel against it. You just keep grinding, keep spending, keep hoping that maybe next year will finally be the year you get ahead. But next year never comes because the math doesn't allow it. So what do you actually do with this information? Because understanding that you're trapped is useless if you don't have an exit strategy. First, you have to accept a truth that will make you deeply unpopular at family gatherings. Average is a marketing category, not a life goal. The average American lifestyle is a product being sold to you. And like most products, the advertised version and the actual experience are wildly different. Your parents probably told you to get a good job, buy a house, have kids, and everything would work out. That advice made sense in 1985 when a house cost twice your salary and college was affordable. But they're giving you a roadmap for a country that doesn't exist anymore. Following their directions will drive you off a cliff. The first step is running your own numbers, not the bank's numbers, not what you qualify for, your actual survival math. Sit down this weekend with your real take-home pay after taxes. Write down every single fixed expense, rent or mortgage, car payment, insurance, student loans, utilities, phone, internet, childcare, if applicable. Add it up. What's left? That remainder is your actual life. That's the money for food, gas, clothes, entertainment, emergencies, and saving for the future. If that number is less than 30% of your take-home pay, you're already drowning. You just haven't admitted it yet because everyone around you is also drowning and calling it normal. Here's what the math actually requires. Your total fixed expenses should be under 50% of your take-home pay. That leaves room to absorb shocks. The car breaks down. You need new tires. Your kid needs braces. Life doesn't ask permission to be expensive. But most people are spending 70 or 80% on fixed costs before they buy a single grocery. They're one bad month away from disaster constantly. And they're doing it because society told them this is what success looks like. The second step is identifying your biggest financial vampire. For most people, it's housing or cars. You're spending 45% of your income on a house that's supposedly an investment, except you can't access that equity without selling it and moving somewhere cheaper, which defeats the entire point. Or you're spending $600 a month on car payments for vehicles that lose value every single day. You're paying interest to own depreciating assets. That's not wealth building. That's financial self-harm with a bow on it. Calculate what would happen if you made one massive change. What if you moved to a cheaper place and cut your housing cost by $500 a month? That's $6,000 a year. Over 10 years, invested at 7%, that's over $86,000. You're not just saving $6,000 a year. You're buying your future freedom. What if you sold one of the cars and shared the other? What if you kept your current car for 10 years instead of trading it in every 4? The average car payment is $536. Eliminating that for 5 years while driving a paid-off vehicle creates $32,000 of wealth just by not upgrading. This is where people start making excuses. But I need a reliable car for work. But we need the space in the house. But my kids deserve to live in a good school district. All of those might be true, but you have to weigh them against the cost of financial imprisonment. Your kids don't actually need the 4-bedroom house in the expensive suburb. They need parents who aren't stressed about money constantly. They need to see what financial stability looks like so they don't repeat your mistakes. The painful reality is that opting out of average means accepting that you'll look less successful than your peers. You'll drive the older car. You'll live in the smaller house. You'll skip the vacation everyone else is posting on social media. But here's what they're not posting. The credit card debt funding that vacation, the sleepless nights about money, the fights with their spouse about spending, the constant low-grade anxiety that one unexpected expense will break them. You get to choose your hard. It's hard to drive a beater car while your coworkers drive new trucks. It's also hard to be 60 years old with no retirement savings because you spent 40 years maintaining appearances. It's hard to rent an apartment when all your friends are buying houses. It's also hard to lose your house in foreclosure because you stretched too far. It's hard to tell your kids they can't have the latest gaming system. It's also hard to model financial dysfunction and watch them repeat it as adults. The version of hard you choose determines whether you build wealth or service debt. Most people choose the socially acceptable version of hard and wonder why they're always broke. The third step is building your gap. This is the space between what you earn and what you spend. Most people have no gap. They make $70,000 and spend $70,000, or worse, they make $70,000 and spend $80,000 on credit. Your only path to wealth is creating and protecting a gap. Start with 10%. If you can't save 10% of your income, you're living beyond your means. Period. The math doesn't care about your reasons. That gap is your weapon against the system. It's how you stop paying the poverty premium. It's how you buy the good boots instead of replacing cheap ones forever. It's how you avoid the overdraft fees and the payday loans and the credit card interest that keeps you trapped. Every dollar in that gap is a middle finger to the system telling you to spend more. It's proof that you're opting out of the hamster wheel. The uncomfortable truth is that most people won't do this. Like, they'll read this, nod along, maybe feel slightly anxious, and then go right back to financing their lifestyle. Because changing requires admitting that the past 10 years were a mistake. It requires disappointing people. It requires being different. But the people who do change, like who run their real numbers and make the hard choices, they're the ones who actually build wealth. Not because they earned more, though that helps, because they refused to play a rigged game. They stopped confusing spending with success. They chose freedom over appearance. The average American is broke because the average American lifestyle costs more than the average American earns. The math is simple, the solution is hard, but it's the only solution that actually works. Look, nobody's coming to save you. Not your employer, not the government, definitely not the financial services industry that profits from your confusion. The system works exactly as intended. It's just not intended to work for you. You have two options. Keep pretending that working harder and earning more will somehow crack the code. That next year, you'll finally get ahead if you just stay on the hamster wheel a little longer. Millions of people choose this option. They retire broke, wondering where it all went. Or you can look at the actual numbers, accept that average is unaffordable, and build a life based on math instead of marketing. Drive the car that's paid off, live in the smaller place, disappoint your relatives at Thanksgiving when they ask why you're still renting. The freedom to quit a job you hate, to handle an emergency without panic, to sleep through the night without checking your bank balance, that doesn't come from earning 6 figures, it comes from spending 4 while earning 6. The gap is everything. Your choice isn't between being rich or being poor. It's between looking successful and actually being stable. Most people sacrifice stability for appearance and call it adulthood. You don't have to be most people.